dual 8K displays, base station 2.0, a 200-degree FOV, and a gaming PC worth more than Mark Zuckerberg's hairline in court, you are likely thinking, why the even compare a Quest 2 to a $2,000 VR headset? Are they even slightly comparable? Am I having a mental episode? Yes, but yes to the comparable part. I'm about to demonstrate that these are not only comparable, but also legitimately compete against each other in hardware, software, and virtually everything, even with a huge price variation. It blows my mind how well the Quest 2 compares to even this wacky beast of a VR headset. Also, big shout out to Pimax for sending me the 8KX, which is a $2,000 VR headset, at least if you include all the base stations and the controllers as well. Luckily, I have an index already, so no extra base stations or controllers were required. Although I only get to keep this thing for about 30 days before having to send it back, and I'm accepting absolutely no money from Pimax because I want to be in no way restrained with how honest I'm gonna be in this review. That said, thanks Pimax. You guys are really cool. There'll be 4 categories: setup, visuals, tracking, and I'm rolling design and comfort into one as they sort of go hand in hand. Each time a headset wins a category, they'll be giving a point in favor of them. Whichever headset has the most points by the end will win my undying love. Also, I'm giving away a copy of one of my favorite VR games of all time, SynthRiders. Yeah, you guys who watch regularly probably knew this was coming. I'm literally drowning in SynthRiders keys as the SynthRiders employee on Twitter. It's so goddamn cool. If you want to win, just drop a comment down below on what feature you think that the Pimax 8K actually has over the Quest 2, as well as having, of course, liked and subscribed, as I'll be picking people from my subscribers list. So, starting with design. The Quest 2 is simplistic, it's clean, it's lightweight, and can literally fit in your front pocket. It uses Oculus standard lenses and has a charging port on the side, as well as a 3.5 jack. Not much to see here. It's great and works really well. Onto the Pimax. This thing looks like some next level futuristic hammerhead shark Zuckerberg eliminator level tech. I'm honestly impressed at how good of a job Pimax did in making dual 4K displays with a 200-degree FOV actually still look cool in a headset. There's a cool little reflective piece that runs along the front with a slight light strip that you can change the color of running across the top of it. That gives the headset its super sexy time traveling look. Even though this thing is monstrously oversized for my pathetic pea-sized of a head, it still looks pretty damn cool. Though, like my dick, its humongous size comes at a cost. This thing is dummy thick out of its mind. It's heavier than obviously the Quest 2, but also my Valve Index, which is already nearly 2 pounds in weight. That said, the wrist strap on this thing does actually do a good job of balancing out the headset on my head and isn't anywhere near as headache-inducing as the Quest 2's default strap. That said, after some playtime, you will definitely feel some neck strain due to having the few extra pounds on your head. This definitely negatively impacted my experience, as the longer I use this thing, the more I notice just how sluggish side-to-side movement is while losing the headset. If you're into any competitive VR gaming like Echo VR or intense FPS games that require a lot of fast movements, this is definitely, in my opinion, gonna hinder you quite a lot. The facepad material that headset comes with, unlike the Quest 2, is actually pretty damn good. I experienced no rashes or skin irritation using this thing. That said, like with any VR headset, it's still a good idea to invest in something like a VR cover or some silicone cover off of Amazon, as this material will definitely still soak up some sweat. Also, unlike the Quest 2, Pimax has some pretty okay headphones on this thing. They're definitely not index level, but they sound good enough. Though the foam padding that I guess is meant to cup your ears is way too small even for my pretty small ears. Though you can take these off whenever you want, you will lose some depth and bass by doing this. Headset also comes with a USB-C port, a 3.5mm jack, and an IPD slider, as well as, of course, to actually use the headset, has one USB 3.0 and one regular USB, as well as a DisplayPort cable. As a little honorable mention, the Pimax also has some great nose flaps that, at least for me, completely block out any outside light and keep me fully immersed in the game. And immersion is one thing that this headset does ridiculously well. I'll get into this in the display section of the video. It's crazy. Overall, as much as I desperately want to give this point to the Pimax for being such an impressive design, it's such a difficult task in making a 200-degree FOV 4K dual display headset actually look cool and streamlined, the weight, at least for my pathetic excuse for a neck, just isn't practical for any prolonged use. It's obviously not portable at all either. Not only is it not wireless, obviously, and needs to be tethered to a PC, but even if it was, it's just huge. Being able to throw a Quest into a backpack or whatever is just so unbeatable right now with the age of wireless VR approaching. But in fairness, the Pimax was never intended for that. So of course, the Quest 2 wins design. Okay, so next up is setup. This goes downhill for the Pimax pretty damn quick. The setup for the Quest 2, as most of us know, is a total breeze. You turn on the headset, you sign in with your Facebook account, outline your play space, and you're basically good to go, besides installing some games and maybe customizing your avatar. Now onto the Pimax. Since the Pimax is of course a PCVR headset, you plug the two USBs and DisplayPort cable spaghetti into your PC. So definitely make sure that you have enough USBs to accommodate this thing, as if you're a fellow content creator or play any sim games using a wheel, a flight stick, a shifter, or a stream deck, or a camera, or a Go XLR, they're all gonna eat up your USB ports pretty fast. And of course a mouse and keyboard like a normal person. Once having the headset hooked up, you'll need to download Pimax's own proprietary software, Pytool. This is where the setup went total ape shit for me. Granted, this might have something to do with me running pretty new hardware in the recently released Ryzen 7 5800X and on one of Gigabyte's new Aurora B550 boards and MSI's newly released 3090 Supreme X. All my drivers were on the latest versions, as well as being on the latest BIOS for my motherboard. Once I opened the Pytool installer, I can't begin to describe how much shit was installed to my PC. Like, as the installer ran, I was getting network security acceptance boxes continuously pop up, while 6 different pieces of Pimax's software was installed to my PC, and God knows how many app data files were created. After completing the installation and having installed what my PC essentially thought was spyware, I begun the room setup and the device setup process. This is the one part that actually wasn't too bad. I paired my index controllers, I outlined my play space, and everything seemed to work pretty damn well. Until I put on the fucking headset. Putting on the Pimax, I was greeted to steamVR throwing a total hissy fit, as clearly something had gone wrong with the headset's tracking, as whenever I'd move my head, the entire game world would flip upside down, inside out, and you could feel it. I totally forgot about that absolute banger, dude. Anyway, you get the idea. So I assumed perhaps maybe some driver installations hadn't finalized, so I restarted my PC. This caused my PC to fall into a power loop and give me an infinite black screen. So I went it, and I force shut down my entire PC. Booting it back on, everything finally worked, and I was actually able to use the headset. Yay! Obviously, the Quest 2 wins the setup process by about as much data as Facebook has on my fucking nutsack. I'm sorry, Pimax, but this was a roller coaster of a setup for me. Now, onto the actual visuals. This is the one part of the video where the tone completely shifts in favor of the Pimax, because holy, the Pimax experience makes me unbelievably excited for the future of VR, but then also goes downhill again. Let me quickly speedrun the Quest 2 first. The Quest 2 runs a single 1832 by 1920 display that can crank all the way up to 120 Hz. Oculus's own lenses are still great and prevent any large amounts of glare. It's clear, it's great, but the FOV is definitely lacking, as you do feel like you're wearing scuba goggles with this thing. Now, onto the Pimax. The 8KX does engage in some false marketing, as the headset is marketed as 8K, while in actuality it's just 2 4K displays. That's not 8K at all. It's pretty disingenuous to market this thing as an 8K headset, since it's not fucking 8K. That said, 4K has plenty of pixels to completely eliminate the screen door effect. It's incredibly difficult to see individual pixels when you have this headset in the sweet spot and perfectly aligned with your eyes. The VR world can look crystal clear and really makes you realize just how pathetic our current little measly VR headsets are in comparison. But unfortunately, that sweet spot is part of the problem, at least for me. Even having adjusted my IPD with the inbuilt IPD slider, points to that by the way, it's incredibly difficult to keep the headset in the sweet spot, at least for me. Perhaps this is my head shape, but even with the headset literally constricting my head with how tight I had it, the weight of the headset would still cause it to wiggle around on my face no matter what. Part of the reason the sweet spot is so goddamn tight on this thing is likely due to the ultra custom lenses that are used on this headset. They look wacky as hell, as they have to work with the ultra wide 200-degree FOV that the dual displays provide. As you can see, the, as I would call, average lens size area is much more clear and looks far more like something found on the Quest 2, while a much more blurry lens surrounds it. This translates the exact way you'd think into the actual headset during games. The center area being perfectly focused and clear, while the extra FOV is incredibly blurry for the most part and looks more like extra light rather than a true extension of your field of view. This extra 100 or so degrees use of FOV isn't intended to be as clear as the center line, and instead just helps sell the immersion via the out of focus peripheral vision. And it actually works really damn well. It's difficult to describe as everything just feels so much more real and immersive. I know I sound like the cringiest advertisement ever, but like, this is some next level immersion, legitimately. I caught myself just picking up mugs around the Boneworks main menu in awe of how sucked into the game world I was due to the extra FOV. This definitely also gives you an advantage in games like Pavlov and Onward, as you can at least make out enough in your peripheral vision to tell if an enemy is sneaking up on you. I truly hope that with the Quest 3, the PSVR 2, and the upcoming headset from Valve, that we truly get a decent bump to the FOV. Like, honestly, screw the resolution upgrades for now. It's solid enough on the Quest 2 as it is, and what we truly need to see is the rest of our peripheral vision in VR, and finally put this scuba goggle bullshit that we've been dealing with for the past few years to rest. That said, this extra FOV comes at a huge game-breaking cost. Since this headset is so uncommonly used, many game developers don't optimize for this 200-degree FOV. Even in SteamVR Home, anything my peripheral vision was popping in and out of existence. This is one of the many ways that current VR headset developers use to keep games running well, by dropping the quality or completely despawning elements of the game world that are outside your headset's field of view. But of course, with the Pimax getting an extra 100 degrees over most other VR headsets, that exposes these techniques in many games. This completely killed the immersion for me. What made it even worse is the terrible FOV-aided rendering techniques that are implemented within Pytool. For those of you unfamiliar, it's a rendering technique that's gaining popularity within the VR space and is likely in many of the games that you currently play on the Quest 2 if you have one. Especially with headsets like the Quest 2 that can run full games natively on it, it essentially keeps just the center of your view in full resolution, while anything in your peripheral vision will continuously drop in resolution as it gets further and further away from the center. The Climb 2 is a good example of these techniques in use, or being used very poorly. The Pimax had a few options for how aggressively the headset implemented these techniques, but all of them suck. As you can see here, even on the lowest FOV-aided rendering technique setting, even parts of the game right near the center of my vision were being incorrectly lowered in resolution, and this was incredibly annoying. It blows my mind that even on my maxed out rig, I'm not able to disable FOV-aided rendering completely in Pytool software, even when it clearly isn't well implemented in the first place. The colors are also something I have to mention. The Pimax uses an LCD panel that is clearly lacking a lot of color. Everything looks pretty damn muted, and I started to feel as if I was in a goddamn Zack Snyder movie. Though I wouldn't be surprised if you could fix all this with changing some contrast and saturation settings. Onto some other display issues. Some games had absolutely no idea what to do with the dual 4K screens, and instead ran two entire separate instances on the game, one in each eye. Trying to drive in Project Cars 2 like this was horrendous. I mean, I couldn't find an obvious fix while shooting this video, but this seems like yet again purely lack of support for the headset. Due to this serious lack of optimization and the lack of support from developers, there's no way I can recommend this thing unless you're planning on playing a couple of very specific games that you already know are gonna run well on the Pimax. But reviewing it from a purely visual standpoint, besides whether this thing is practical or not, obviously this point for display is gonna have to go with the Pimax 8KX. When this thing works and you are in that sweet spot, this thing is truly incredible and literally makes me so giddy for the future of what's to come in the consumer directed VR headsets for the next few generations, like the Quest 3 and 4 over the next 5 years or so. Now, next up is tracking. Now, why would I bother including tracking on this since the Pimax 8K just uses the same base station 2.0s? There's nothing really to talk about here. Well, yes, but actually no. First, let me just speed run the Quest 2's tracking. As most of us know by now, the inside out tracking is great. It's convenient and generally pretty reliable, though many, including myself, have reported progressive degradation of the quality of the Quest 2's tracking over time. It's not clear what causes this, but it's definitely frustrating if you play a lot of fast-moving reaction-based games such as Beat Saber. Now, with that out of the way, Pimax's tracking. The Pimax 8KX, even when running games that are seemingly running without any FPS drops, the tracking on both the headset and the controllers feel like they're slightly lagging behind. This is particularly noticeable in games like Beat Saber, where the hardest expert +++ maps or whatever other maps would be a breeze to me in the past, I could barely make it through one of the basic default Camellia songs on the OST. Everything felt kind of sluggish. Like, it felt like I was stoned out of my mind, just staring at my hands, trying to figure out what was off. So much so that this thing began to make me feel extremely motion sick, something I hadn't experienced since I was a boy. Bear in mind, I am running very new hardware, and some have reported issues just generally with 30 series cards with the Pimax 8K, so perhaps this could be fixed in a future driver update for the headset. Obviously, the Quest 2 is going to have to win this category, as not only is the inside-out tracking incredibly useful and convenient, but also this sluggish performance from the Pimax just isn't okay to play with at all. So congratulations to everyone that owns a Quest 2, including myself. I honestly have to pick this thing over the Pimax. The Pimax right now, don't get me wrong, it is an incredible insight into the future of VR, but it's just stuck in the hardware and the software restrictions of the present. Thank you again to Pimax for being so cool and sending me this thing and allowing me to be completely honest in this review. This is something that some companies don't understand, so huge props to them. I can't wait to see where Pimax goes in the future and see what they can do to continuously improve this thing, because they have something genuinely special here that could be truly incredible if they iron out some of these optimization issues. And again, if you want to win that Synthrider's key, just drop a comment down below on what your favorite feature of the Pimax 8K is in your own opinion, as well as having, of course, liked and subscribed, as I'll be picking people from my subscribers list. And the winner of the Sprint Vector key from the last video is Vapory Beat. I'll contact you via the reply to that comment and your channel discussion page. And if you got to this point of the video, you're the true MVP. I really do appreciate you guys are freaking awesome. I'm sorry for not calling you the true MVPs in the last video. Some people got upset at me about that. I love you guys. Those of you that get to this point and keep the watch time high, which keeps these videos recommended and keeps YouTube not hating me. Thank you so freaking much. You're the soul of this channel. Thank you. See you guys in the next one. Peace. Bye-bye. Yo, I just want to say thank you for the 500 followers on Instagram. I try and post more regularly there, so it's nice to see that some people actually follow me on there, albeit only a few. GetHip YT is me on Instagram, link in the description down below. Also, thank you for 6,000 followers on Twitch. I've been streaming more regularly there. Thank you everyone that's shown up to the Twitch recently, and everyone that's become a sub on the Twitch, and everyone that's become a YouTube member here. Thank you so much. You get all your extra benefits and your cool gold name in my Discord server, so thank you for supporting me, and I really do appreciate you guys are the best. And I'm gonna get onto editing this video or I go insane. There's so much work to do.